On today's YouTube, I'm going to talk to you about grasses that are okay for shady areas. And I've been asked this question recently and said I would do a quick YouTube on it. And it will be a quick YouTube because I don't have that many grasses that I can show you for shady areas. Now, lots of grasses are okay in shade, but I'm going to go through 2 or 3 that are really exceptionally good in shade. It all depends as well on the amount of shade. So some gardens are just sort of semi-shade and some are full shade. Now, if it's full shade, you're always going to have a problem with certain grasses. But a lot of grasses will take semi-shade quite readily. Now, the first one I'm showing you here is called Ornamental Lesoniana, and it's classed as the pheasant tail, or called the pheasant tail grass. Now, it does well in shade, it does well in sun, it does well everywhere actually. This is one I always recommend for everything, and it does well in dry shade as well once it's established. So Ornamental Lesoniana will do well in shade. I've got it in part shade here at the moment, but it does do well in shade. So that's that one. Now, I'm not too far away from this one. I've got this one here. Now again, I've got this in the sun because again, it does well in the sun. And this is called Aurizopsis Uniflora. And that'll do absolutely excellently in shade. It doesn't want wet shade though, it wants a semi-dry shade. A little bit of moisture there would help it to get established, but it doesn't want wet shade. So if you've got that kind of condition, probably not go for this one. But in general shade, this one will do it really well. So that's Aurizopsis Uniflora, and there are several forms. A good one to buy would be Aureola, which is a more yellowy version, which takes it really well. And there are other forms that do well in shade as well with the Aurizopsis. In fact, to be honest with you, most of them do really well. So this one is Aurizopsis Uniflora, and it's commonly called the rice grass. And it does quite well in shade, but not heavy deep shade, but more on the edges of the shade. Although I have seen it in deep shade, and it seems to do okay there. So maybe give it a try. So that one's Aurizopsis Acia, and it's Acia is another one I was going to mention. This one's Uniflora, and it's good because it spreads itself around. And it will form colonies in shady areas. Not very tall, as you can see from here, but some people say that's quite nice and quite elegant, but I'm not 100% sure really what I feel about this one, but I do have it because it serves its purpose. Again, it's in some sort of sun, as you can see at the moment, but you remember this does get shade through part of the day. And I've just got it in here really to get it established, and then it'll move itself around to where it wants to be. So that's Aurizopsis Uniflora. Good one for shade, but small. Now this one's quite small at the moment, and it's a grass for shade, and it does really well in shade. And this one is called Aurizopsis Uniflora, and it's called the snowy woodruff. And it produces lots of white flowery seed heads, really, that one. And that does quite well. It has this lovely spiky look about it. It's not very big, like the last one I've shown you, but it's a good doer, and it will spread itself around into that shady area. So if you plant one plant there, just let it seed around, eventually it will do its thing. While we're here, because we're next door to it, we've got another Aurizopsis here called Samurai. This is a new one in, as you can see from the label behind it. And as I said, they'll do really well in shade. Now, not too far away from these two is this one here. And this one's called Luzula. Now, Luzulas do really well. When you look it up, it's Luzulu, but it's Luzula. That's how it's spelled or spoken. And this particular one is called Luzula Igel. So take the N off Nigel and look for one called Luzula Igel, and it does quite well in a shady area. Again, the sun's shining through, because don't forget we're in a winter sun at the minute, or an autumn sun, and it's quite low in the sky. So what would have been shade a month ago is now getting more sun. So again, a smaller grass. We tend to find the ones that do really well in shade tend to be smaller grasses. So the other ones that would do well also is, I've just told you the other one, which is Aurizopsis Uniflora, which was the one I've just shown you. Same family. or same relation. Now, just up here, there's another one, and it's strictly not a grass, but everybody calls it a grass. It's Ophiopogon planiscarpus nigrescens, and I've got several of these around. It's looking a bit ropey at the minute. It's usually totally black, but it will do well in shady areas. So try that one, give that one a go. That'll colonise again, and that one should do well for you as well. Now, because I haven't got everything that I want to show you, I'll mention one or two others. There's one called Milium effusum. That's a good one for shade, so look out that one. There's also Cabaret ochimensis, and I'm looking at a list at the minute because these are ones I don't have but I've had in the past and do really, really well in shade. Now, a good one, if you want a really pretty one for shade, is this one here, and this one will do quite nicely in, well, to be quite honest, it wants more of a moist shade, this one as well. So this one's called Calamagrostis brachytricha. When you look it up, it'll say brachytricha. That's how it's spelled. But it's a Calamagrostis type, and it does really well in shade. And it is mainly in shade here. But look at that flower. That is just a stunner. So that's really nice, that one. So there are others that'll do quite well, and we tend to find that some of the variegated miscanthus do well in shade, because a lot of shade lovers tend to have this variegated leaf, because what they're doing is they're collecting more light through it. So this one's called Cabaret. Now, if you're going to put that in any sort of shade, you will need to get some moisture to its feet, because it will prefer that. There's another one called Miscanthus sinensis, and it's variegatus. Now, that'll do really well in shade, as will Dixieland. That'll do really well in shade as well. And Dixieland is just a more upright form of variegatus. I don't have them. I have variegatus up in the nursery area, but I don't have it in the garden. There's only so much I can put in there. And as I said, you really need to be looking for variegated grasses or small grasses, all the ones I've just mentioned. There are more grasses if you look around, and it depends what country you're in. I'm in the UK, don't forget, so I'm telling you ones that do okay in the UK. I have shady areas. I'm still working on some areas, and some areas haven't been filled with plants that are good for shade yet. But there will be. But the one I would most recommend, or the two that I would most recommend, is that one there, Ornamental lesoniana, a stunner, and that does well in shade. And then this one here is Hacanacloa, and it's just the ordinary macra, the green form, in seed at the minute, but that'll do really well in shade. So you could maybe try Electrotrichum sempervirens. I know people have grown that successfully in some sort of shade, not a full shade, but a modicum of shade, and that's that blue one back there. I personally feel it's better in a sunny position, but give it a try. You never know, it might do well for you. Don't try big grasses like this in shade. They just won't take it. They'll just suffer, and they'll be half the size they should be. But as I said, again, you can see down here, we've got the pheasant tail grass again, and a Ornamental lesoniana. I've got it under this tree because it gets a lot of shade at certain times of the day. It's got a tree above it, and it likes dry shade, damp shade, wet shade. It's not too particular, to be quite honest. You don't want to be living in a river, but it'll do okay. So I'm going to read the list again. So if you get your pen, get ready for it. This one here is Aurizopsis Uniflora. There's Ornamental lesoniana. There's another one called the oak grass called Chasmanthum latifolium. That'll do well in shade. There's also Miscanthus condensatus types. Cabaret, which is the one up there, the larger leaved one, will do well. Dixieland is a thinner leaved one, is a sinensis. Then there's Lugula nivea, Lugula igel, Ophiopogon planiscarpus nigrescens, which is strictly speaking a lily, but we class it as a grass. Cabaret ochimensis is another good one, as a lot of the Cabarets are good in shade. Some aren't, some prefer sun. Milium effusum, is another good one. And don't forget the beautiful Japanese forest grass, Hakanakloa macra, particularly Aureola. And then the real pretty grass that we'll end on, because it's in a good area to show you it at the moment, is this one here. And that one's Calamagrostis brachytricha. Would prefer a bit of moisture at its feet if you're going to put it in shade. Okay, hope that helps. That was supposed to be a short video. It's ended up being over 10 minutes. But hey-ho, so what? Hopefully that's helped a few people who want some ideas for shady grasses. Give them a try and let me know how you get on. Ta-da!